Books are things to read, and reading is the easiest way for your brain to learn new things. Studies have shown that people who read are much less likely to develop memory problems, are much more likely to be able to empathize with other individuals on an emotional level, and have a significantly increased chance of finding an attractive and wildly successful partner. I may have made one of those up. Regardless, reading has been a net positive in my life, and so let me share with you the 5 different ways in which I tricked my brain into reading twice as many books this year as I did last year. Let's jump into it. First things first, we need to have some sort of way to track what we're actually doing, because if we're not tracking what we're doing in terms of books and reading, then we won't really know if we're improving or not improving. And so, for everyone watching this video, I'd really strongly recommend you download a little-known free app called GoodReads, because it's significantly changed the way I approach reading and books in general in 3 very special ways. First of all, in the pre-GoodReads days, I used to have a giant wish list on Amazon with every single book that I wanted to buy, and so that way I could keep track of the recommendations that I had from other people and had heard from other places. And then, once I bought a book from there and I read it, I had another list on my iPhone with all of the different books that I had read, just so I could keep track of all of that. This was not a very efficient way of doing things, and GoodReads solves both of these problems for free. It's essentially the app to track everything that you have wanted to read or have read. When you download the app, by default, it comes with 3 very specific folders. Folder 1 is your want to read folder, so you stick any book that you want to read in here. Anything that I've heard from podcasts that I may be interested in, maybe a friend has told me about it, on the spot I just log into my GoodReads app and just add the book to my want to read folder. So I have a giant list of books for later whenever I'm actually looking to read something. The second folder is your currently reading folder, and for this one you basically mark a book that you're currently reading as currently reading, and then other people can see what you're looking at the moment. You can even track your progress with your currently reading, so people know, for example, when you're 50% done with a book or when you're 80% done with a book. Finally, the last folder is called Read, and this is where it keeps all of the books that you have already gone through and said that you finished reading. This just simplifies your life so much in keeping track of everything to do with books that it's pretty crazy. Especially when you consider that the GoodReads app can actually sync up with your Kindle, so you can make all of this progress pretty much automatic, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Anyways, the second way that GoodReads has completely changed my life is by gamifying the reading experience. What do I mean by this? Well, gamifying is just the art of making something feel like a game or a video game to make it more interactive so that people are more willing to participate and use that thing. GoodReads gamifies the reading progress by giving you those 3 folders, so you have to read, want to read, and currently reading. But much more than that, it gamifies things by adding progress bars to 2 very specific areas. Any book that you're currently reading actually gets like a little progress bar, and then at the beginning of every single year, GoodReads asks you to set like a yearly reading goal, and that also gets a little progress bar. And so it becomes like really fun and addictive to just watch those little progress bars move up little by little. For example, if you're like 5% done with a book, if you read just a little bit and get it to 10%, you get like a little dopamine hit off of that, and it's very rewarding. Finally, when you're done with the book, there's also a little button that says, I've finished this book, and when you click that, it's like, yes! And then it goes to the yearly goals progress bar, and you see that one fill up just a little bit more, and it's just, it makes reading a video game. And that little gimmick has made me read a lot more than I have before. The third thing that GoodReads does is that it makes reading go from a solitary experience to more of a community experience. It is in itself kind of like a mini reading social network. And so you can see what your friends are doing in like the book world, and that really motivates you to just read even more. Side note, I'm gonna leave links in the description below for where to find GoodReads and for anything else I might talk about in this video. Anyways, back to the video. So now that we're ready to track what we read, the second thing we have to consider is how exactly we read. It sounds like a simple enough question, but there's a lot of different options here. You can, for example, have the tried and true method of reading from a physical book. Then there's the option of having a Kindle or a digital ebook. And finally, there's the option to just not read altogether and have an audiobook to skip the whole reading part of reading. I think that most people fall into the first camp of loving physical books. There's something inherently special about holding a book. You get to feel the pages as you move throughout the story, and when you're done, you get to put it on a shelf so that when your friends come over, they're impressed and think that you read like a lot. Wow, you read all these? I'm impressed. Physical books though are not the way to go. Look, I'm sorry, like you might think I'm pulling your leg and it's kind of sad. It doesn't feel anywhere near as like fancy or prestigious or special, but the first thing you need to do if you want to start reading a lot more is to just buy a Kindle. I spent years saying that I preferred physical books, shopping around in bookstores and waiting around for my Amazon orders to get to my house, and after all this work, I really wasn't reading all that much. As soon as I got this Kindle though, game changer. And there's three main reasons for this. First of all, between the Kindle app, and then like the web app, you can basically read anywhere you want. You can read while waiting in line. You can read in the dark, on a toilet, or even in the shower if you get a waterproof Kindle, which I did. All of this is possible because as long as you have a screen anywhere around you, you essentially have access to your entire digital ebook library. That leads me to the second reason why a Kindle is super handy and will allow you to read more, and that's because it's super easy to take around with you. Sometimes with like bigger physical books, it's really hard to carry this around somewhere and really enjoy a good reading experience, especially if you're going anywhere. And like myself, you also like to read multiple books at once, so it's a real hassle to just bring multiple books on one trip in case you might want to switch around and get bored of one. With a Kindle though, since you have your entire library stored in here, super simple to carry around, very minimalist, doesn't clutter up your shelves by the way, so like if you really don't like cleaning, this is perfect because there's no bookshelf maintenance or anything that has to do with this. And finally, the third and last reason why a Kindle will change your life is that since everything is digital, you get instant delivery. You won't have to wait to get a shipment from Amazon. You won't have to go to the store and be disappointed that they don't carry the book that you want. As soon as you get a recommendation from a friend, you can literally just go to the Kindle store, buy now, download, and immediately start reading that book. As a bonus, fourth reason to get a Kindle, you can link this to your GoodReads account, and then this will automatically sync and update what book you're currently reading and what books you have read. And so it's super convenient, makes everything automatic. If you're all about efficiency, this is the way to go. All right, so we've gamified the process of reading so we read more, and we've made it like extremely ridiculously accessible to get literally any book we want. Tip number 3 though has a little bit to do with your own psychology. It sounds really stupid, but just like be honest with yourself about what you like. This is a trap that I've fallen into quite a few times, where I don't necessarily buy a book because I'm personally interested in it, and instead I buy that book because I either think that I'm someone who should be interested in reading that, or I think that I will gain some sort of prestige from reading that specific book. And I find this happens a lot with like nonfiction books and classical history books. I consider myself a fairly educated individual. I am going to medical school after all. And so there was a point where I thought, you know what? I'm gonna start reading Homer's The Odyssey and the Iliad because I am an educated individual and I want to show to other people that I can read the classical books and I am a culturally competent person. I never finished them. And it's because at the end of the day, I wasn't buying that book for myself. I was buying it for other people. It sounds like super stupid, but it's happened to me quite a few times. And so if you genuinely enjoy the Odyssey or the Iliad, then by all means go out and buy books like that. Personally, it's not for me, and that's all right. At the moment, I'm really enjoying reading light novels and romance novels. Those are the books that I actually finished. Alternatively, I could just buy something like the Iliad again, and then no one would care, first of all. I would waste my money because I wouldn't finish the book, and reading would seem like a chore to me, which is not what we want. So think about this next time. Are you buying something because you yourself are deeply interested in it and would likely finish it, or are you buying it for, you know, someone else? All right, tip number 4 to enjoy reading more, try to read before nighttime. I'm one of those heathens that loves to fall asleep with the television on and with the sound blasting because, I don't know, I'm some sort of monster. But sleeping with the TV on does lead to less optimal sleep because I could theoretically be waking up at night from like the lights and the sound without even noticing, resulting in me just being more tired throughout the day. So what I've been doing recently is reading a few pages on my Kindle every night before I go to sleep. And that by itself kind of works as a sleeping pill. It knocks me out and I get more reading done. It's like a 2 birds, 1 stone kind of deal where I sleep better and read more at the same time. So if you haven't attempted to do this before, I strongly recommend you try it. This is another reason why you should get a Kindle because it has the backlight, whereas if you're reading a physical book, you kind of need a light to see what you're reading and that can potentially interfere with your sleep. Anyways, read a few pages before passing out. probably wouldn't recommend horror stories though. And last but not least, tip number 5 is to share what you're reading. I find that the people who read the most almost make it a social experience where they share with others what they're currently reading and they give recommendations. And so why not take this to another level to potentially increase the amount of books that you read every single year? I personally use GoodReads and my blog to post reviews on every single book that I read. And I've noticed by doing this, I'm sort of incentivized to read even more because I genuinely enjoy the process of summarizing a book in a post and just sending it off into the world. Trust me when I say that writing reviews for books kind of makes you more into a bookworm somehow. You could potentially try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least for me, it's definitely helped me read more than I was before. Anyways, those were the 5 different ways that helped me double the amount of books that I read every single year. If you like this video, make sure to click that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I do hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.